So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about healthy aging and why it is the great disruptor. I'm not going to talk to you about longevity. You guys can teach me about longevity. However, what we're going to talk about is what the latest movement is towards living better longer and how we can do that no matter where you are in your life. Now, I learned everything that I know, well, kind of, from my grandmother. My grandmother is 100, or was 111 years old. Okay? So, I'm hoping I've got some of those genes. If not, I'm up the creek. But, with that said, there's one thing that I learned more than anything else, and that is her superpower was curiosity. Whenever I would go travel, I would come back and she would say, "Who do you meet? What did you do? What did you learn?" And she was just always really curious about what was happening in life. So as we go through today, I'd like you to use your superpower of curiosity. And if you don't have it, well, we'll work on that. But I'd like you to just simply ask two questions. Why? Why is that information important to me? Why is that the way it is? And what if I actually did something about that? And even if you take away just one little thing that could change the trajectory of our existence, it was worth it. Are you guys ready? Okay. Are you guys ready? This is a participatory one. Okay, I've seen you in the classes over there. You're whooping it up. I know you guys can whoop it up. Okay, so for eons, the quest was the fountain of youth. Can we live longer? Well, you are a testament to that. My grandmother was a testament to that. But whenever you're talking about healthy aging, you have to start with a very simple thing, and that is for most of our existence, the average life expectancy was 18. Now can you imagine that? Think about all that you have enjoyed since being 18. That's a lot, isn't it? Well, my father, when he passed away a few years ago, I was curious how many people were still alive over the age of 85, which is how old he was when he passed away. Because we see these statistics, and what do they mean? They're just averages. Well, what I found really interesting was that my dad, who died at the age of 85, 42% of the population that was born at the same time as him, same year, were still alive. That's a very significant number. Men had exceeded life expectancy that was actually given at that time by 23 years. Women by close to 20 years. Now, if you're not planning to live an even longer still, because by the age of 85, you're expected to, live a good 6 to 8 to 10 years longer. And then, of course, the longer you live, my grandmother kept talking about those old people. At 111, those old people, part of her success was the way she viewed the aging process, which I believe probably many of the people who successfully live longer view it very differently than those that don't. Matter of fact, 7.6 years longer or shorter is the amount of time that we're expected to live if we have a negative perception of aging. Now, if you have a spouse who's very negative, don't put your hand up. That's not good for your relationship, okay? But if they're very negative and you've been with them for a long time, look at it this way. They'll be gone 7.6 years earlier, so you're going to have some peace and quiet. Okay? Not really, but, The other thing you have to do, by the way, is you got to have some fun. Life is too serious, especially right now, but I won't get into politics or media. Here's our great challenge, and that is most of us will spend 50% of our life in moderate health to poor health. And our guide for today is to go from moderate health to good health or better health. And if we're in poor health, to go to moderate health. Now, you may say to yourself, well, I'm 85, I'm 86, I'm 87, that won't happen. I don't think so. I had a wonderful lady who was at a presentation that I did many years ago. She came up to me afterwards and goes, "You inspired me." I said, "Well, thank you very much. I was just here to share my knowledge with you." And she goes, "I am getting a personal trainer on Monday. And every month for the next 4 years, I got an email from her with a picture of her. And it was here I am with a personal trainer, here I'm doing this, here I'm vacuuming." But she completely changed the trajectory of her life simply by becoming more active. Because when you're not active, what happens? You become inactive. And if you're inactive, what happens? You begin to lose muscle mass and things begin to spiral downwards. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how to reverse that, how to change that trajectory. Now, for a lot of people, it's like, okay, well, big deal, I don't think there's anyone in this room that does not have a chronic health condition. It's like, at some stage, you can run, but you can't hide, my friend Jay Oshansky at the University of Chicago says. If you live long enough, you are going to have something. The question is how we manage that. The impact on life satisfaction, you simply just being satisfied with your life, is significant in regards to your health and well-being. Declining from good health to poor health is twice as much as losing a job, becoming widowed, divorced, or separated. So when we look at our health conditions, think about how we can reverse the impact of that. It's also 5 times as much as losing one's income. Now, I don't know about you, but the more income you have, you would probably be weeping a lot higher. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to be not pessimists, because pessimists look at all of this and say, "Oh man, this is really, I'm feeling a pity party for myself. Things aren't that great." We're going to be the optimist, okay? We're going to be the person with a thumbs up, and we're going to turn upside down a very simple word, difficulty. And that is, from a business perspective and a life perspective, anytime there's a challenge, there's an opportunity. And every time there's an opportunity, I can grant you that there will probably be challenges. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at some of the challenges and figure out how to turn them into opportunities, and a little bit on the other side. And we're going to start with the last 30 years. Can we live better? Now, what do you think? Can we live better? You're shaking your heads. Why? I mean, after all, the media and everybody says that we can. Right? People come up to you and say, "You shouldn't be doing that." My mother used to get really aggravated with her doctor because she would go to her doctor, and his famous line was, "You shouldn't do that, you're too old." Anyone experience that? Slap the doctor up on the side of the head and leave. Get a new doctor. So here's where it all started, in 1994. This was at the Tufts University. They came out with a landmark study that showed that it didn't matter how old you were, well into your 80s, 90s, and above, that you could actually reverse much of the strength loss that we experience, and I'll speak about that a little bit later, by simply doing a 10 to 12 week strength training program. Nothing crazy, just simply doing a very basic strength training program. Now, what does that mean? Well, let me give you an example. Chad, is Chad in the room? No, he isn't. Can I steal, Chris, right? Yes. Can I steal you for a second? I'm going to give you an example of this. And then I'll show you a slide about this a little bit. Like, come on up, don't be scared. Come come on over, come on over. Okay, so I'm gonna get you to mount me here. Okay, so hop up, but hang on. Well, it's not that vigorous. Okay, yep. Well, up a little higher. Okay, so think about it this way. Anybody want to take pictures? You know, he has a wife. So think about it this way. Between the ages of 35 and 70, we lose 50% of our strength. Now, what happens if we weigh the same, which we don't? Okay, that's why I chose him. Okay, I'm not stupid. Okay, now, do you think if we weighed the same, I wouldn't start putting my legs out a little wider to be stable, and I wouldn't start going a little bit slower because he's not making me breathe heavier, and it's not good for him with that, but so we're breathing heavier, I'm now running to the car. I'm not running, okay? I'm walking to the car. I'm playing with my grandkids. Do you think that he would change my life just by being on me 24 hours a day like this? Yeah, and it wouldn't look very good either, would it? No. Okay, so think about this for a second, and then think about people around you. All right, I'll let you down. Thanks. It's very nice meeting you. I'm available for days. Okay, let's give him a hand. Come on. But now think about this and watch people around you as they walk. A little bit like this. Now, there was a study not very long ago that they went up behind people and scared them. They were walking very quickly. Okay. What ends up happening a lot of times is we lose our strength. Two, we get in, okay, I'm just going to move like this. Think about movement. There are lots of ways to walk. Okay? For those of you who like research, you can look up, if you're Monty Python fans, the silly walk. That's actually an exercise. So if you want to walk silly just to feel good, do that. You can Nordic walk, you can do all these different things, but just do something. Our goal is to reverse that strength loss so that you don't have him on your back all day long. Okay? So that's basically what the tough study showed, is that we can get stronger, and because we get stronger, we can walk upstairs easier, our gait is better, our chance of falling is less. It's not very complicated. And then I was in the back of a taxi talking about this research study with Dr. David Buckner, the head of the CDC Division in Aging. And I said, David, I'm really excited about this research. 1994. We are Where are we today? 2024, 30 years later. And I tell you this because he was almost bang on, and I'll show you some examples. But today we are talking about, people participating in the senior games. We're talking about adventure travel. We're talking about HIIT training, no matter what level of fitness or what have you. Things have changed a lot. So the end result of that 30 years of change is that today we are fitter, healthier, think faster. Our problem is most of us are still challenged with cognitive or chronic health diseases, and that impacts our overall health and well-being. So what we know today is this: we can use interventions to change our trajectory. Matter of fact, simply by using today's interventions, we can reduce the impact of chronic health disease for our current and future generations between now and 2040, we could reduce that by 40% if we simply use current interventions. Now, that's a lot. Imagine how we could change the world around us by doing that. Now, what do you think these interventions are? Anyone? Take a wild guess. Playing bingo? No. Exercise is one. Yes. Anyone else? Yes.
Eating healthy.
Eating healthy. All right. Anyone else? Come on, this is like bingo. This is like call the number.
Socialization.
Socialization. Well, let me give you a couple of these. Years ago, I flew out to meet Dr. Richard Carmona, the Surgeon General at the time, who's actually now become a really good friend. And I said to him, Rich. Back then I said Dr. Carmona, of course. Actually, I didn't. I said Mr. Surgeon General. But I said, can you tell me, I've flown over to get some pearls of wisdom. What can I tell our readers and our members? Well, I'm going to come back to this in a second, the left-hand side, but he basically said the exact same thing. Never smoke, minimize or eliminate drinking, have a good BMI, exercise, and what else? Eat a healthy diet. Pretty standard, pretty boring. I sat there in front of him and I went, I flew all the way out here for something that we all know. And he said, yes, the problem is we don't do anything about it. I went, that's not true. Well, simply by doing these 5 things at the age of 50, as an example, and they impact you no matter what age, but this research was at the age of 50, a woman could extend her life expectancy by 14 years, a man by 12.2 years. Now, the follow-up research to this showed that you can also put chronic diseases at bay further. It reduces early death. It reduces all these things. You're able to contribute to society and income and all this kind of stuff. So, what percentage of the population do you think does all 5? Anyone? Let's say the pessimists in the crowd. 5%. Oh, pessimistic? Let's hear from an optimist.
30.
30? That's not very optimistic, is it? Holy smokes! 8%. 8% of the population. Now, there's a follow-up 30-year study from Harvard University that eliminated the alcohol part. Only 3 to 4% actually achieved all the other elements. So we have a lot of work to do if we're looking to achieve the results based on what the science shows is available to us. Here's what the impact is. For those of you that are accountants or economists in the room, we would add about $12 trillion between now and 2040 by reducing chronic health diseases by 40%. Fewer earlier deaths, fewer health conditions, expanded participation, increased productivity. It's not very complicated, just simply doing stuff. Now, somebody always asks me, what's the best way to walk? To start a walking program. Well, 2 ways. Put one foot in front of the other. That's the first one. And then ladies, if your husband needs a little shove, do it. Not down the stairs, but out the door. And say, walk around the block, come back and see me when you're done. Isn't that what we did as kids? Your parent would send you out and you'd come back and you'd have played games, you would have had fun, you would have been engaged. All of these different things that lead to a better, healthier life. So today, what we know is that healthy aging is within our grasp, and we're actually healthier than in the past, except for disease, okay? And other things, of course. But that is creating what we're going to talk about today, and what is exciting to you is new industries. 30 years ago, a community like this maybe wouldn't have existed with the fitness room that it has today. It would have been maybe a couple donated pieces of of equipment down in the corner where nobody could see, that no one's staffing it and no one using it, but it would be called a state-of-the-art fitness equipment room. Today, it's front and center. A lot has changed, and this is creating an opportunity for all of us around these three words. New industries, new programs, new lifespan, new lifestyles, all of these things that are driving change. Living better, longer is within our grasp. Question is, do we embrace it? Here are just a few of the things that will change to help us do that. Products and services, housing. I'll show you that between now and 2030, basically out of our 10,000 senior living communities, 71% expect to be a wellness-based community with care versus a care-based community with wellness. Shifting the focus, but that's a reflection of what is happening in society. And we'll talk about that with longevity clubs and all of this. But imagine all of these things that would be impacted for people living healthier, longer. Caregiving, fewer needs for that. More people able to stay in the workforce. You're looking at education. You now see many retirement communities being built on the campus of universities. Why? Because people want to keep learning. Lifelong learning is at the essence of all of this. So I'm not going to go through all of these. These are just some of the industries that are changing around us today. With all of this in mind, as we go through the remainder of this, I encourage you to think about one thing. How do you create your living well playbook? Now, I did a presentation the other day, and the gentleman was hard of hearing, and he came to me at the end and said, "Did you mean a living will playbook?" I said, no, living well, wellness, living well playbook. And at the heart of that are these 5 different elements. Health span, embracing our identity, person-centered focus, well tech. That's it. There's actually 4, not 5. No, there's 5. No, there's 4. Yeah. It was an interesting night. So, it all starts with who we see ourselves as. You know, a lot of times people talk about changing behaviors to get to where you want to be. I think you need to change identity before you can change behavior. If you do not see yourself as someone X, how can you get there? I'll give you an example. Many of you in this room know when you've lost your job or you've retired, all of a sudden your identity changes. And it takes a while to figure out who you want to be. Well, our identity keeps changing throughout our whole life. The question for you is, what do you or who do you want to be or see yourself as, and how do you want to get there? If you see yourself as somebody who is overweight, I don't go out, I don't travel, and you keep saying I don't, that gets in your brain and that is your identity. That's a simplified version of it, but the reality is, as I mentioned, how we think impacts how well we live and how we age. Do you think Mick Jagger there thinks about himself as growing older? Probably when he's doing all of his exercises to train for his stage show. He feels the aches and pains. But new research today from Age Wave, Ken Dykewald, who wrote the book Age Wave and has 19 other publications, states that today when he interviewed a few thousand people and asked, when do you see yourself as old? It moved from 60 to 80. I think that's a crock. And I'll tell you why. I much rather prefer Sarah Harper's, and Ken's a friend of mine, by the way, so I'm not kidding at Ken. I just don't think that that's it anymore. I think that Dr. Sarah Harper from Oxford University said it best, and that is, we are all active adults until we are not. And when we are not is when we begin to feel old. And there's a difference between older and old. My grandmother at 111 never felt old. She certainly laughed when she couldn't find her false teeth. And for the last 3 years of her life, she had one tooth. And the reason was she couldn't remember where the heck she put them and didn't want to go get new ones. Okay? But she did become a kleptomaniac and try and grab everybody else's stuff, including their teeth. So things changed, but she was certainly an active, older adult. Remove the word older, and she was just an active adult. Throughout her whole life, we keep getting older. I remember when we used to stand around the corner from the liquor store because we couldn't get in, and we had to find somebody who was older to buy that wine for us. None of you would have experienced that, of course. So here is what is being portrayed today. And I show you this because this is a start. We're starting to talk about sex after 60. Well, how about sex after 80? You know, we do have a blue pill. Ken Dykewall, I remember him telling me having a conversation with his mother at 81, and she was talking about her new boyfriend, and started to get into a little bit more details that he did not want to hear. Okay? Remember when your kids come up to you and they say, "Oh, I just had sex for the first time." No. It was the same experience, but the other way. And why? But the reality is we are. So we are seeing people now in society in a lot of publications and doing a lot of things that once were exclusive for the young. I'll give you an example of that. Vogue magazine. You see many covers now with Vogue with somebody who is older on it. You have Mae Musk, Elon Musk's mother. Sports Illustrated. The following year, you had Martha Stewart. For those of you that remember, Sports Illustrated was always the young, hot, sexy woman. Now they have somebody older, but it's a reflection of what is happening in society, where we are focusing more and more on who is making up the demographic. Think about who is going to be coming into your community in the next 10, 15 years. This is a picture from Vogue in the Philippines. This lady is close to her hundreds, and she's fully tattooed. Now think about this picture. And these ladies hanging around the juice bar or what have, or the bar 20 years from now. You will see people fully tattooed, and the reality is it's just what's happening in society. So we are a reflection of what is happening in society, and should be. That's why at the heart of everything, we need to change the language around aging, according to Dr. Joe Coughlin from MIT. Joe basically said, instead of all the innovations and all the new products, we need to change language. And language starts with, I believe, in our industry, with a whole new narrative. And that narrative is about living better longer. Here's an example for you. let me ask you, do you think that that gentleman's identity changed? Who he saw himself as? Absolutely. He discovered what his capabilities were, what he was capable of pushing himself to, and he didn't really do much, but he did enough to have what was the best part of that whole video. Can anyone tell me what they think the best part is? And I'm a little weird, so. Raising his granddaughter. You would think that, wouldn't you? Which was great. For me, the best part was the nosy neighbor. The person who put their nose in and did not discourage him to achieve his goal. But that happens so often, doesn't it? Why are you doing that? You're too old to do that. Don't do that. You're going to hurt yourself. She even went to the degree of calling the kids. If we listen to what everybody around us says, we'll never do anything. Okay? So, I believe that communities of the future and today, and individuals need to discover who they are and create a center where it is open to discovery. So a center for discovery. As an example, you're discovering who you are, what your identity is, what you like to do, what you don't like to do, what your delayed dreams are, what your functional capacity is. And does that limit you, or do you change that? You discover whether you like taking photography or whether you actually hated work, but now you actually really enjoy helping to volunteer. So discovering what we enjoy and who we are is at the root, in my mind, of how we age well. Now, this is a picture of me when I was younger and trimmer. In the Atacama Desert. I've been to 57 different countries. And that has been, the world has been my center for discovery. You discover different cultures, you discover different landscapes, you discover all the languages, all of these things, and you discover that you really suck at any language, otherwise than English. I can say one word otherwise than give me beer in Spanish. And that is poquito. Somebody goes, do you speak Spanish? Poquito, that's it. Now my wife, on the other hand, she's a scholar when it comes to that. So, when we are discovering new things, we also want to create environments that help us transcend where we are today. So let's say if you're doing a yoga class and the weather's fine, do it outside. Do it at sunrise or sunset, so it's an experience. It transcends you from where you are to somewhere completely different. That's why one of the biggest trends you see actually happening outside of our industry are sensory rooms. This is a group that's opening up in Texas. It's called Submersive. Good reason, it actually is water. And they are building a variety of what they call bath houses. And you can go in and it's all with sensory overload, but you can go in, you can be in the bathhouse under the stars. It's just helping people to get outside of the norm without them having to go somewhere. It's transcending them. It's always wonderful when you can go into a center and it transcends you so that everything around you seems to leave until you're finished. That's what travel does for a lot of people. That's why beyond ourselves. Simpler version is just putting on a set of virtual reality headsets. It will take you where you want to go depending on what it is programmed. Matter of fact, this is the #1 technology thing that people are purchasing in senior living over the next 2 years. Why? Because COVID has encouraged us to take, one, a greater focus on our health and well-being, and two, fulfill some of our dreams and delayed dreams. I always say delayed dreams because my dad did a lot of stuff to provide for the family. He would come home, he would study, he would go to sleep at 11 o'clock and the kids are out, playing street hockey or having a good time. But he did all of that, and he delayed a lot of his dreams to support us. So how do we help people to achieve that? Well, first is we want to help expand your health span. Okay? Health span is the amount of time we live in good health. For many of us, the last 8, 9, 10 years, not so much. Our goal is to shorten that. And Dr. Kenneth Cooper, who was the grandfather of aerobics, does a lot of research out of the Cooper Institute. He has a program called Cooperize. Of course, Cooperize, I told him I was going to, my next presentation, I was going to colonize everybody, and he said that might come with some baggage. But with that said, his program is not very complicated. It's the exact same like Dr. Richard Carmona and, the study from in the Heart Institute, American Heart Health, and it really is very simple. It is about doing those things to expand our health span and reduce our time in ill health. His research showed that he was able to do that with many of his participants, so that when they got into their 90s, instead of 8, 9, 10 years of ill health at the end, they just dropped dead playing tennis. That's a good way to go. I could think of a couple better, but, pickleball. So, where were your minds? So here's how the media is promoting the process of aging today. Old age is over. I don't know about you, but I think we all are getting older. What they fail to tell you is what's down here in the fine print. If you're a lawyer, you might pick that up. If you want it to be. And what they're talking about is expanding your health span so that you are an active adult for as long as possible. Now, here's the caveat. You've probably heard a lot of people come in, a lot of people sit down and chat, or you watch shows and they go, you got 30 years of additional life. That's great, isn't it? They forgot to tell you, you gotta earn the 30 years of good health. It's not a given. So if you have a lifetime membership to McDonald's, it's probably not on the best path to good health, okay? If you actually have a robot that does all your exercises, it's probably not gonna help. By the way, did anybody see the movie Frank and the Robot? Is that coming? Best scene in Frank and the Robot was when the robot tried to give Frank an enema. Whoa, think about that for the future. When we used to say the doctor had cold hands, think about it this way. We, ourselves, our kids, our grandkids, our friends have to earn our health span. Remember I was talking about strength loss? Well, one of the simplest things of starting to earn your health span is to regain your strength. Take advantage of the beautiful room that you have here with incredible equipment that can help you regain some of that strength loss. Now you're on your way. Now you do some of the other things. You're moving further along your way. You're improving your health span. We're in the middle of a wellness revolution, and you folks are in a place that can help you embrace that if you choose. Now, how do you earn that health span? Think wellness. Everybody has a different definition of wellness, but for our association, we look at wellness as the optimal state of being, no matter where you are, when you are, with who you're doing it, whatever it may be. But to achieve that, we need to first understand, accept, and then act upon our capacity and our identity. Have you ever heard anyone say, I can't do that? But 30 years ago I could. 60 years ago, you should see me, I was a football player, I was great that 60 years ago. Focus on today, what you're capable of. If you can't run, walk. Walk fast. If you can't walk fast, walk slow. If you can't walk slow, go in a pool and walk. Take the resistance off. If you can't go in the pool and walk, ride. Find something, adapt, change and adapt. That's a crucial part of focusing on you as the individual and not as the group. What do you enjoy? What do you like? What do you want to do? Find something that makes you feel purposeful. As an example, I forget what they call it, but I think it's in Sweden where they go for a walk, but they go for a walk as a group, and when they're walking, they clean up the side of the highways. And that brings purpose to those individuals. So find something that's similar to that. What turns you on? What brings you joy? And understand that you can or cannot do that based on your current capacity. And how do you change your current capacity, your functional ability? We talked about strength. Strength, I use that as an example. But we lose 75% of our power if we are inactive as well. We lose it when we're inactive. If you're active, you're not losing it at the same rate. So imagine if you lose 75% of your power. What does that mean? That means you aren't able to react in as quick a time as possible. So if you're falling off the curb on a road, your reaction time, 75% of it's gone. So what are you going to do? Continue forward. Okay? Now, unless you've taken karate all your life and you can then flip and jump back up, you're going to fall and hurt yourself. That's the reality. The reality is we can also impact that. So, our goal is to remain interconnected with each other for social engagement. We want to be interdependent on each other, so I'm not just dependent on you, but you're dependent on me, whether it's for support, whether it's for commerce, whatever it is, and I want to remain independent. And independent is a very interesting word. I like to use the word autonomous living. I want to be able to do the things I want, when I want, with who I want, and I don't want you to get in my way. Okay? That would be ideal. That's what I believe we strive for. And as we look at that, how do we get that? You have a wonderful wellness model here that can help you get there. We utilize the 7-dimensional wellness model, you utilize the 6. Personally, it doesn't matter as long as you do stuff. If you get up and you get out of the house, the first thing you're doing is you're moving. You go to the store, you're starting to speak to people. So you're socially connecting with people, whether you like them or not. The list goes on and on. So with that said, think about it this way. 90% of people over the age of 50 see healthy aging literally as the same as autonomous living, doing what you want, when you want, and with who you want. How do you get there? Well, as I mentioned, and I'm not plugging the community, but utilize the services here. You are very lucky to have those services. I can tell you, I've been to thousands literally over the last 40 years, and many communities still do not. So as you move forward, create your longevity, your living well playbook, whatever it is, and that you're focusing on these 4 different elements. So we have, the goal is to align our health span with our lifespan, so that literally when our time comes, it comes, and we can die well. Most of us don't want to think about it, I don't. But here's an example of the strength loss that I mentioned to you. This is what happens, it goes down. And what we want to do is we want to straighten the curve, flatten the curve, so that we are able to keep our abilities to do what we want. Now, here's a piece of tech. Remember I said there's all these new products and services that are being built. I tried this in Korea recently. This is from Samsung. This little product here will help you to get stronger when you're walking. It will add resistance. And if you aren't able to walk, it will add a structure to then enable you to walk a little bit easier. It's coming to the US, it's going to be $3,000. Okay? But people are building solutions to help us. It's not about being youthful, which is what we've been told for a long time, it's being useful. How do we remain useful? How do we remain relevant? How do we remain engaged? And my friend Chip Conley, if any of you ever read his books, he's also a very dynamic speaker, very passionate. And one of the ways he recommends is same thing as my grandmother, being curious, asking people questions. How many people do you think you would meet over time if you just walked up to them and said, you know, I love your glasses. Where'd you get those? Now all of a sudden you start a conversation. Now, going up and saying, you know, I'm looking for a wife. That may not be the best, okay? Yeah. But think about that. It's all in our hands, and a lot of times, it's hard to do stuff. It's really hard to do stuff. But one of the things that Chip does to actually keep his mind engaged, is every 2 years, he learns a new skill, and he takes 2 years to master it. So if he wants to learn programming from a computer standpoint, if he wants to learn, how to paint, whatever it is. So what do you really get excited about? And what could you take the next 2 years to learn? Maybe other people have similar interests, so you're meeting people, you're challenging yourself cognitively. But it's about you. It's not about everybody else, it's about you. So what do you do for self-care? What do you think this is? This is self-care. This little watch, all the apps that get attached to the watch, it's all about you monitoring what you're doing, what you like to do, what you don't like to do, what you're eating. Are you eating well? No, I'm not going to log in that hamburger. Okay? You have to tell it the truth, number one. But the focus of the health care industry is moving towards you. It's about us taking care of ourselves with the assistance of people when we need care. We're all diverse, function, financial capacity, physical capacity, cognitive abilities. No two people age at the same rate or at the exact same time. So think about what programs and what things you like to do. Utilize Brian and his team to actually create that. Here is a report that just came out not very long ago from Deloitte's consulting firm, Deloitte. Yes, it is Deloitte. And they predict by 2040 that the center of the healthcare model will be us. And it will be all driven by technology. And whether it is patches telling us whether we need to change or give ourselves a shot for glucose, can never say that word, or whether it is wearables, biometric clothes, all of these tools to monitor behind the scene until something says, hey, something went off there. Let's catch it before it becomes a big issue. Now, will we get there in that time frame? Who knows? But that is the trajectory. Add to that DNA testing. Has anybody had any DNA tested here? Otherwise, to see if you have kids? Yeah, no? Yeah. Hey, let's not joke about it. My brother passed away, and about 6 months later, we got an email. Hi, I think I'm your brother's daughter. Oh yeah, sure. She wouldn't do the DNA test, but damn if she didn't look like him. So, but these are tools to help us guide our decisions. Some are more accurate than others. You want to make sure that you understand those tools. But those tools are now coming into our homes. Remember growing up, you could phone a doctor late at night and they would come over? Nah, it doesn't happen anymore. Nowadays, they'll ship you out all this stuff so you can take care of yourself, okay? You can do all your blood tests, you can do your blood pressure, all the things that you used to go to the doctor for, it's now up to you to do. And why? Because you can monitor yourself, and unless something changes, you don't need to go in to see the doctor all the time. But these little smart rings, they have rings that will tell you if you're hydrated or not, and if you're not, to drink so that you don't get dehydrated, because if you get dehydrated, you could get delirious. And I'm not speaking about Eddie Murphy's delirious, where it's funny, it's not funny, okay? So, as we look at that, we're going to talk quickly about the last one, and that is well tech. Now, you've heard about artificial intelligence recently. You can't pick up a newspaper, a magazine, go on the web or anything without talking about it. But artificial intelligence has been with us for a long, long time. Think about if you have one of those little, Roombas that cleans your floors and just does it by itself. Siri, and how many of you have conversations with Siri late at night? And you change your voice to a little deeper. Siri, how are you? Okay, all of that is artificial intelligence. We have it in fridges, we have it in air conditioning, we have it all over the place. Today it's just simply coming to the forefront. And well tech is being driven by it. So pretty soon you're going to see more and more of this, and that is, it's obscure. What goes in must come out. And whatever comes out can be monitored. It can tell you if you have colon cancer, it can tell you a wide variety of different things. This is called Toy Labs. I'm not so sure about the name, toilet, but I got it. So the reality is, data matters. Understanding what is happening in your body matters. So as we wind down this session, I want you to think about who you can work with here, or family, or what have you, to be part of a team to understand your data. Because understanding your data is going to be crucial as we move towards the future. Here's an example of that, and this is going to change the health club market. I grew up in the fitness club market. I ran clubs for 10 years. Oh man, it was a great time. It was like the Wild West. Today it's boring. But Nico is one of the longevity clubs that are opening up all over the world, and at the heart of the club is the assessment tool. That's not a shower. Oh, it's a little washed out, but that's not a shower you see. That's actually an assessment tool. It's a scan that you'll go in, 15 minutes later, it will tell you almost everything about yourself, what your cardiovascular health is, what your oxygenation is, all of these different elements so that they can create a very person-centered program. Now, think about that as the big computer years and years and years ago, and how it all now comes back to this little thing in your hand that is going to do much of that, okay? Or, new technology. Hard to find staff today? You want to rub? There you go. You can get your massage by the latest Swedish massage agent, or Turkish, or whatever you want to position it as. It will scan you to tell where you're tight, what's happening in your body, and then set out to give you a massage. So, as we look at where we are today, as I wrap up, bottom line is, we're in an exciting place today. We have a lot of opportunities. We have all these things, whether it is cognitive, physical, social, spiritual, relational, all of these different elements that are different today. The question is, do we embrace those or not? And to bridge the gap to the future, we have no choice. I think about all the changes that my grandmother saw all throughout her life. And people constantly would be telling her, oh yeah, your generation didn't change. What a crock! You think about all the change that has been experienced. So I leave you with this thought, and that is that our health is not anybody else's responsibility but our own. Whether we choose to do something about it or not is also your own decision. But if you do, the world is a completely different place to discover. So with that, thank you very much. I don't know if we have, I'm happy to take any questions that you may have or how that works for you, Brian. Here I am stepping in and telling you what we can do. Anyone have any questions? Yes, ma'am. BMI? Oh, it was a good record label. No, I think it was a record label. BMI is basal metabolic rate, or body mass index. Body mass index, it's me. It's your body mass, it's your fat, you know, all of that. That's why the screening is always great. You know, what it does is it doesn't just show you if you're getting heavier, it also shows you if you're losing muscle mass. So one of the key things that you want to try and do is keep your muscle as strong as possible. My mother is waiting, well, she's not waiting, I lied. My mother refuses to have hip surgery. And she has gone from being a woman like this, who was walking independently. She's afraid of the gas, right? So she's gone from that to here, to here, to here, all because she doesn't want to have the hip surgery. She's now leaning over, doesn't have the health. There's a lot of things that are in her control. Her doctor did not reinforce it when he said, well, a woman of your age, and that was when she was 75, 10 years ago. If she has her mother's genes, if it was me, I would have had it, but it's her choice. I kept telling my dad what to do because I saw my dad walk out of the car one day, and he was walking like this. I said, Dad, what's happening? You need to build up your leg strength because it's like a tree. You want to build your roots and your trunk. I said, here's what's going to happen is you're going to walk like this. Then you're going to get a little weaker. You may have to go to a cane. Then you'll get a little weaker to a walker. Then you get a little weaker into a wheelchair. And then to a bed. That's exactly what had happened. And it happened because I was his son and I knew nothing. I go all around the world and I told him I had people pay me to actually come in and speak and knowledge. My pharmacist says that was his thing. My pharmacist suggests these new drugs. And I should check with the doctor. So, you also need to be careful of who you have around you to support you. If you don't have people around you to support you, change those people. Because the impact is very negative. Yes?
Appreciate have people around you to support you. What I kept seeing in a lot of the research that was done
Yes.
Is, this is not a negative, but it's so very much, it's all about me, it's all about me, it's all about me. And in many ways it is all about us. But I was surprised that in the research there wasn't a higher elevation of ideas like socialization and also even higher than that, purpose in life.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of talked about, to me, those things are the top of the list, purpose in life, and not just, it's all about me, it's all about me, it's all about me.
No, I'm saying where things are going. Where we are today is, this is where we should be, to your point. Give me 2 seconds. Here. Okay? It's about, first, Yes, it's about me.
And I love the fact that in that slide, it says interconnection, but I didn't see that in any of those other research lists.
No, I mean, we have an hour. So this alone, this slide, we could talk about this for probably weeks. And connection is crucial, purpose is crucial. To be frank, everything is crucial. Living is a risk. That's what my dad used to say. He said, living is a risk, and then I would put the word factor. Living is a risk factor, and how we live impacts what level of risk it is. Remaining engaged is vital. COVID showed that, where people were, isolated, and before the pandemic, the depression was expected to be the second leading cause of premature death and disability. I'd be surprised if it's not number one right now. And part of that is just not being connected. So yeah, all of those things impact. People say, which one's better than the other? And everybody will give you something else. I think purpose in life is an interesting thing, because if you were to ask an arena of people, do you have a big, hairy, audacious purpose in life? I think most of them would say no. If you ask them, would they like to be purposeful in the things they do, I think almost everybody would say yes. So, there's some semantics there, but you have a question.
I think we are a society now, which we go to the doctor and we want magic pill. And I know myself, I do not like to exercise, but I do, because I feel that's what I need. So I go to exercise and I go to yoga. And even though I don't like it, it's beneficial for me. And I think that we as a society, as we get older, we say, oh, we don't want to do this because this hurts and I just don't feel like it. And sometimes you have to push yourself.
A lot of times you have to push yourself. So she was saying that, as we get older, a lot of times we don't want to do, I'm paraphrasing here, some of the things that we should do, that she exercises even though you don't really enjoy it because of the benefit of it, which is what my mother does for rheumatoid arthritis. She exercises to minimize the pain as much as possible. My kids, I try and get them to eat well. And like my dad, when I say something to them, they pay no attention. So the one thing I know is that, to your point, we are meant to move. We are built to move, and if we don't move, just look at what happens to an astronaut when they are in the space station and then they come down and they have lost, the strength and their capabilities, and it takes them, a good chunk of time to get that back. It's like bed rest. Yes?
How do you evaluate what we're doing here?
How do I evaluate what you're doing here? Oh, that's a really tough question because it's not long enough time. If I was really doing a proper evaluation, I'd be hanging out here for, a couple of weeks. I'd be interviewing each of you, figuring out what you like, what you don't like, and so forth. From what I see as far as the amenities go, you have options that a lot of places don't have. The question is taking advantage of those options. Programming, I haven't, had the opportunity to dive into all the different programs. I was at a community recently in Victoria, BC, and they said, our residents are very active. I said, oh, yeah, everybody says that. And they said, no, we're going to take you out for a kayak ride. So we went for, not a ride, a kayak. So we went for a 2-hour kayak around the harbor. One of the ladies that was in there was, transferred over from a wheelchair into the kayak. And she was probably the strongest upper body. And I asked her, why did you do that? She said, why not? It's something I enjoy. Now, I'm not trying to create a panacea. Believe me, I got screwed up shoulder from pickleball, pain. You wake up in the morning, my mother keeps, forgive the French, but my mother keeps telling me, aging is a bitch. And my grandmother said almost the exact same thing. There are challenges, but how we approach those challenges makes a difference. Yes?
Last two speakers have it very, very close to what is right. You're putting the responsibility on us. There's a step before that, and that's in the technology and the availability of knowledge and corrective action. Just think of all the things that you said we should be doing if you didn't have your sight.
Oh,
Like me.
absolutely.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
You may like to do it, but you can't do it. There's ways, I think there's got to be ways people are working on to overcome it.
And they
It's
are.
not happening here.
Yeah. One of the gentlemen was saying that, doing a lot of these different things becomes very difficult to impossible if depending on your sight. And sight is, there's a lot of new technologies that they're working on. No one has got anything that I would say is incredible yet. But there are also things that you can do, such as meditation, speaking with people. We're all handed a different hand. And the question is, how do we play? And to your point, I'm not saying that it's all about you. What I'm saying is that that's where the trends are going. I think that connection is vital. I think all this technology is useless unless it supports connection. If it tries to replace connection, human connection, I think we've got a big problem in front of us. But yeah, sight is a huge issue. Hearing, if you can't hear at all, all of our different senses. Yes?
So I have a question as far as you started out the presentation using, taking the word older.
Yes.
Active.
Yes.
When you look at the articles and organizations and professional organizations and all of them should come out, we read active older.
Ours is the exact same.
So what is this push? And is there, so we should be changing the way we speak because words are powerful. We should be saying, really, active.
Absolutely. So she was saying that, all the different phraseology, is it really actually having an impact, and how do we actually make it have an impact? And it starts with us. Think about it this way. Years ago, we were having a conversation, and years ago, people that were here were inmates, was that right? Terminology. 100 years ago. Inmates. Memory used to be you were senile, and you were in a ward. So language has changed over time, some not as well as we would like. But it does happen over time. If you look at the new research that just came out from AARP, they show that there's finally a shift in the imagery that is being used in many ads that are more realistic of where we are today. Still too few, but it is more realistic. So things change, but we have to push that change. I was at a wonderful dinner the other day when I was at Tapestry, and I said to this woman, I forget what it was, but I said, ladies. And she said, I'm not a lady. I've never been a lady. Lady sounds upper class. It's not me. I am a woman. So call me a woman. And I went, holy But it made me think. You know, everybody has a different, my mother has no problem with the word seniors. A lot of people do. You know, so, and it's not older is the issue. We're all getting older. It's when you get old, things change. So, you know, I think the only thing that we can do is as a society is just keep pushing back and pushing back. Because change has happened. If you look at it compared to 30 years ago, big difference in the way the media covers the population. 30 years ago, it was all negative. And all the reports that were coming out from places like the World Health Organization and the World Economic Forum and all of these things were about gloom and doom. Today it is very balanced. It's about the challenges of aging and the opportunities. And that's where we live, is somewhere in the middle. Nothing is perfect. Yes?
We have over 400 people living in this area, in this community. And you can see here how many people are here. You can see how many people come to the gym or to the water. How do you encourage those that don't come to come?
Inspire them. You know, I mean, you can market it. To me, it's four things. Knowledge. But knowledge isn't going to inspire me. Inspiration, role models, you know, people who, you know, how do you lose that weight? How do you get so fit? How do you know, people will ask. You know, our beliefs. We need to change our beliefs. You know, it's kind of like a table where you got four solid legs and you have to hit one so it's a little bit wobbly, where somebody becomes open. Up until that point in time, I think is very difficult. And the other is fun. Make stuff fun. You know, if somebody doesn't like the term exercise, talk about, you know, function. Most people want to be able to function so that they can live their life the way they want. If they can, not everybody wants to do exercise. So sometimes it's changing terminology. But I don't think, if I had the answer for that, I wouldn't be standing here. I would be, you know, at a Bahamian island just having a great time. Behavior change. It's the hardest thing out there. And, you know, it's just tough. And sorry, you had your hand up.
My concern is the population like between 30 and 50. Jobs now are very sedentary. Our jobs, we were always moving around nursing or teaching, or they're sitting at computers. They love being at home, not socializing. I think that's going to show up pretty poorly when they get older. I
think, you know, the old saying was, our home is our castle. I think our home is becoming our jail cell. Because if you think about it, we spend, you know, COVID pushed that forward. I mean, you know, my kids, I have to get them to come out. Now, my oldest happens to be a big fan of Disney. And I've been trying to get her to, you know, exercise for a long time. And all of a sudden, she entered in a Disney 5K run and walk. And she got her medal, her Disney medal. And since then, 4 years on, her whole room is filled with nothing but Disney medals. Now that has cost her a fortune to do. Well, actually, it's cost me a fortune to do. But that's what it took for her. I asked a couple of my researcher friends, you know, because what ends up happening is we have these reserves that we have built over years that we draw upon physically, cognitively, all of this, whether the younger population is going to have the reserves to draw on later in life. And he just looked at me and said, nope. We're going to have a problem. It's even the younger population that's going to be even worse off because they've come up with the phones, they've come up with everything.
I want to give us support though. They have the exercises on our channel. so that if you're at home, and even if you're not able to get around, you can do some of the exercise. I'm thinking some people are doing that, I know there's times when I haven't done it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great thing, because we have people that I hope that they can do arm exercises, their exercises. That's what we get.
You know, she mentioned that a lot of people may or may not know that exercise classes and so forth are on the channels in your room from the community, and that it gives people who maybe aren't socialites that want to spend time with people, you know, that they can do something. Or if you are not able to come into class or what have you, and that's fantastic. There's a lot of places that don't have that. Yeah. And by the way, you know, my grandmother, what she did for her strength training was she woke up every morning, had 2 big bottles of water, and that's what she used for 72 years. She never set foot in a gym. That doesn't mean not to go. Anyone else, any other questions? Or are you guys all ready for happy hour now? All right, thank you very much.
I just want to take one moment to thank everybody for joining us today. And on behalf of Sparrow Wellness Advisory Board and Passive It, thank you, Colin, for joining us. It seems like we're just hanging out with you last couple days and learning a lot from you, so thank you. And I also want to thank some of our financial supporters for today and the rest of Active Aging Week. I think the Passive Auxiliary, who has helped us out. The Passive Community Gathering, which is an ecumenical, non-denominational service. We had an anonymous donor, so I want to thank that person. Optum Health, thank you. I don't know if anybody's here from there, but it also helped us out. I think that was it. Did I miss anybody? Oh, everybody who took the pledge to give a little bit of money to help donate to the Active Aging stars that are plastered all over the fitness center windows. Beyond the financial support, it's also kind of cool seeing all the stars on the window too. So thank you, and have a good afternoon.